Hi, I'm Dr. Peters with Peters Wellness Chiropractic and Massage. And this week, I'd like to talk about one of the biggest objections I hear from people, one of their biggest complaints, and that is having enough time. Not necessarily just for taking care of themselves, but time for their family, time for their loved ones, time for their friends. And I just wanted to address it because as a practitioner, a lot of times people come in, and more so than I can't afford care, because we make care affordable, it's more of I don't have time. So one of the things I do obviously is adjusting from head to toe allows me to give the person more of a benefit each time I see them. So I tend to not have to see people as much as others. However, with that being said, some people are like, oh, twice a week, I don't know if I can make that happen. We're talking about your health. How can you not spend a half hour a week or 40 minutes a week, whatever that time frame is? What about your exercise and all these other things? So I really just wanted to touch base on a couple of simple things. People who tend to complain about not having enough time, well, depending on who you read and who you follow, there's a lot of different things that they would say in regards to what the person is using maybe time more as an excuse. But I want to keep this positive and just say, hey, let's all make better use of our time. And I've used these techniques myself to, well, really get a lot more out of life and have more time for my family and more time for patients and more time for my team and time for people, well, and time for myself, which I think a lot of people are missing that. So if someone is complaining about time, though, I think one of the best questions to ask them is really, do you know how many hours you have in a week? And some people, now we know 24 hours in a day, but doing the math sometimes will slow them down. But the reality, if time was really an issue for you, wouldn't you want to know where all your hours are going or what you're doing with them? Because time really doesn't go away. You're going to spend that time, and then that time is spent, and we can't get it back. So let's go with, if we have 24 hours in a day, 24 times 7 is 168. 168. Okay, so I'm going to keep it simple up here. I'm going to put the numbers up there. So one of the most important things I think for good health is to make sure we're getting a proper amount of sleep. Now, sleep studies, they show that 7 to 9 hours is a good number. I'm going to use 7 simply because I think if people are exercising and eating well and handling their stress well and doing the things they need to do, that 7 hours should be sufficient. Now, for you, you need 8 or whatever, then modify this a little bit. So it's not all black and white, there's some gray in there. But 7 hours, so if I take 7 hours times 7 days is 49. And if I subtract that, this should give me 119 hours left in my week after I sleep, okay? So I've got 119 hours left in my week. So what is one of the most important things for us? Well, we want to be able to afford to pay our house and buy our food and all these things. So let's talk about work hours. So work hours, people come in and, when they look at studies, when you research it, they say most people are working 40 hours a week, but they don't actually work a full 40 because they're doing anything. But either way, you're going to be at work. You got to get to work. You got to spend time in your car. So this could be a huge variable, especially for people who work a couple of part-time jobs and maybe on top of their regular job. But let's take this. Let's take 5 days in a week, but let's work 12 hours a day, okay? That's going to hopefully take in the driving time and balancing that out. And again, it might be a little more, a little less. But let's go with 60 hours of work a week. A full-time job is 40, so let's go with 60. We're putting some padding in there because I think work is important. So let's take away 60. So if we take 119 minus the 60, I believe that leaves us with 59 hours. So this is our work time, okay? So we have our sleep, we have work. Now, we have 59 hours left. One of the things I think is very important for our health, again, is working out or exercise. Because I don't have time to exercise. Or really, maybe it's just management of that time. So let's work out 1 hour, 5 days a week, and let's do 5 hours. So we had our 59 hours minus our 5. That's going to leave us with 54 hours. And this is work out. Okay, so we got 54 hours. Now let's take that 54 hours and let's divide it by 7. And that should leave us about 7.7 hours per day. Now let's take that 0.7 because I'd rather work with 7 than 7.7. But let's say every day you got to shower and you got to do things. So let's leave it with 7 hours. I'll do that to make it look like a 7. So we got 7 hours a day. 7 extra hours a day after we've slept, we've worked out, and then we've showered and gotten ready for whatever our day has in store for us. Now, 7 times 7, that's an extra 49 hours a week. So for someone who says, I don't have time, now I know a lot of you might say, well, but I've got a sick parent I'm taking care of. I've got sports and my son or my daughter. Yeah, I know all that needs to fit in there. But I would hope in 49 more hours in a week that someone could find time to take care of themselves. Someone could take some time to maybe do 10 minutes of reading a day. Maybe they could take time, 10 minutes of planning a day, 10 minutes to get your thoughts together, listen to something educational. But if you look at 168 hours, and if you're working 60 hours a week, I mean, that's a lot of work. Now, a lot of people say, well, I drive an hour and a half each way. Dude, find a job that's closer or move closer to your work. Which, I mean, you might say, well, that's with this and that. Well, maybe it's worth it. And it might take you a year to get it done, or it might take you 2 years. But you're worth it. You're worth setting up your life so that you can have a better life. I mean, when I lived in the Bay Area, it was sometimes an hour and a half for a 30-minute drive, or even, I think it was a 25-minute drive going over the bridge, sitting in traffic. And I knew at that point, someday I'm going to live close to my office, wherever I'm working. And it took me a long time to get to that. So this isn't necessarily easy, but sometimes when things are difficult, we just got to work a little bit harder until we can get it to a point where we can take care of ourselves, because if you take care of yourself, you can take better care of your family, you can take better care of the people you work with, you can take better care of everybody in your circle of influence. So I hope this helps, and and if you got something to say, positive or negative towards this, love to see it in the comments, either on Facebook or YouTube. Put it in there so I can get your feedback and input. And I've gone over this with patients in the past, and really when someone realizes that they have an extra 7 hours a day that they can utilize, I mean, it's phenomenal. There is a lot of time. It's a valuable asset. Please don't waste it, and have an awesome week.